Hello and welcome back to the Right Brain Podcast. Today, me and my dad hung out at the pool yesterday. So if we're looking a little tan, that's why. Today, I think we're gonna have like sort of a miscellaneous episode, just because I know like the scientific side of things is always so fascinating, and we're always gonna be talking about that. But sometimes we also like to keep it a little loose, just talking about like what I'm going through mentally, which he's had to deal with me calling him throughout the years a million times with my ups and downs. But yeah, I guess I was saying to him, just I was home recently for like my brother's wedding, and that was the most magical time ever. But like for the past, I guess like month now, I've been in, or no, not a month, I think maybe like 2.5 months. I've like fallen into this like extreme amount of anxiety that's worse than it usually is. And it's like right now I'm like, oh, everything's great, life is great, but it takes me like 2 hours every morning to come out of that. And it's just been kind of like something I can't shake. So I've been telling my dad about that kind of. But
did you say that it was triggered by you being sick, or you felt like that, or that was just something?
Yeah, I think like I don't know how long ago it was. Maybe like 2 months ago now, or less. But I went and did a writer's retreat where like I stayed out at a writing camp for 3 days, and it was sponsored by Tito's. So like it's kind of it's so much fun. But like you go out to a house with a bunch of songwriters, and then you write probably for like 10 hours a day. But it's also sponsored by an alcohol brand, and so everyone's like, there's a pool there, everyone's starts drinking pretty early. Then you're like writing really deeply about other people's life and some super deep stuff. And then you kind of take a break, and everyone's like drinking and like in the pool, and then you go back in for another like 4 to 6 hours, and you're writing again. And then everyone's kind of like partying at night, and then you like wake up and do it all over again for like a couple days in a row. And
I can't imagine that a house like that, though, is that all these songwriters are early risers, right?
Well, actually, the day started every day at 10. Breakfast was at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
And then you start writing at 11.
Right, okay.
So, yeah, it's not like we were up at like 6 a.m. But Lord knows everyone was out or is up until like 2 a.m.
Yeah, because right brain dominant people, that's it. They like to stay up at late, and they don't like to get up early in the morning. Yeah. Typically,
Yes, there were many people that weren't making it to breakfast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got home from that, and I got really sick. Like I just was really run down,
yeah.
For a couple days. And then I don't think I had much time to just be like sick, because I was working, and then I think I had to fly back to New York, and then I was in New York for like 2 weeks. So yeah, maybe this was like more like 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was about 6 weeks.
This happened. And yeah, anyway, since then, and I know like drinking does not help, and I'm realizing that more and more. I think like the older I get, like I'm just can't handle it the way that I used to, just like being like, okay, whatever. Now I'm just going to start my day again. But yeah, it's just been like I wake up, and the second I wake up, I have like this instant feeling of like guilt and shame, like deep, like I just did something horrible to somebody. And it's like before I even have time to think, like it's the second I open my eyes, that is the feeling I have.
Well, it's a very good description of it, because it means that you're not consciously creating it, right? If it's before you even have a conscious awareness, it means that it's being generated by your subconscious, which means it's being generated in your brain without any reason per se. And so that's where you know that it's neurological. It's not actually psychological. You understand? And that's where. Now the question is, all right, so all of that, your body's run down, you get sick.
Yeah.
And so what's the effect that has on your body, or what effect is your body going through? You're increasing inflammation in your body. And so in doing that, you're increasing also your body's stress response, which is it tries to now lower that inflammation, and it activates something called your HPA axis, which is what produces cortisol, which is a stress hormone, right? And so it starts this chemical cascade in your body. And then there's other things immunologically that can happen. Like you can produce what's called inflammatory cytokines, and you can activate different parts of your immune system. And again, the bottom line is that it all kind of either ramps up your inflammation, and then that has effects on your body. And basically, your body's under stress, and then your body might produce more adrenaline or other things to try to compensate. And then if there's imbalances there, or if there's, if parts of your brain are still very immature, then you may always be in that kind of sympathetically dominant state. So that's where that can create some of these feelings. But the bottom line is, my question for you is like, I'm going to treat you like if you were a patient of mine, right? I mean, I know you know what you should do.
I know.
And the question
I
is,
have them here.
right, but the question is, have you done any of that? And again, I try very careful, especially with a right brain dominant person like you, to not come off judgmental, because I'm not. I'm not judging you. I love you. I'm not judging you. I know that we worked your whole life. You know what you need to do. You know there's some maintenance, meaning that, just like we were talking yesterday with Emma, that if you're doing something with that right brain over and over, like songwriting, like you're at a songwriting camp with a bunch of people, all you're doing there, you're surrounded by right brain dominant people. You're doing this super right brain creative thing.
Yeah.
All for 3 days in a row, you're bringing up all of these right brain emotions, because when you're writing songs, you're not writing songs about, really deep songs and painful songs. You're not writing about joy, pride, and anger, right? You're writing about shame and guilt and embarrassment and depression and sadness and loss and hopelessness. And you're writing about right brain emotions. Mm-hmm. So now you're in this this crucible of right brain development. You're with all these and all of your brains are resonating with one another. And you're bringing each other's brains into this state. You have to get into that state to recreate that emotional state.
Yeah, really quickly too, because you don't know these people, but you're writing for an artist, and you want to get them a good product, and you have 4 to 6 hours to get it done. So you sit down, and you might have never met each other before, but it's well, I'm going through a divorce after 10 years and whatever. And you're okay, great. Let's dive into that. And then you have to bring yourself to that part.
So what would it feel like during divorce? I guess it would feel horrible.
Yeah.
And so, that's the thing. Okay. Understand there isn't a permanent fix for this type of stuff. It's not like, you get an infection, you take an antibiotic, and it's gone.
Right.
It's your trait is that you are this incredibly right brain dominant person, and it's always going to take work to make your left brain try to keep up with your right brain. But that's what life is like, right? It's like saying you have to exercise your whole life, and someone going, "What? Can't I just exercise for 3 months and then never worry about it again for the rest of my life?" No, because your body's dynamic and it changes.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, so no, I just want to be able to go and run and train for a 10K, and then I want to go back and eat and do whatever I want to do and drink and not have to worry about my body, right? It doesn't work. And your brain is the most dynamic organ in your body. So it is constantly changing. And it is impacted by the environment. It's like an antenna to other people's brains, and they have an impact on your brain. And so you're in this huge right brain town. And that's what I say to parents. The biggest influence on a child's brain is the parent's brain. If they have an imbalance, they're going to be bringing that child and resonate with their brain.
Yeah.
So it takes work. And see, this is the challenge that's really hard. This is why I like working with kids and not adults as much.
Yeah.
Because kids, you can make them do things. You say to the parents, all right, you're going to bring them in here, you're going to do this, and then they're going to wake up, and 2 times a day you're going to do this, and you're going to put this on their head, and the parents are like, okay, I'll do it. But adults, you can't make an adult do anything. And when you're dealing with someone that is so right brain dominant and is in a really left brain state, there's this sense of hopelessness. There's this lack of motivation to do anything. There's a lack of belief that anything they do can really help or work. And it's all neurological, but it doesn't feel that way. No one feels, oh my God, this is just my brain firing off without my permission. You feel like, no, I am a piece of crap, and I am a horrible person, and everybody out there hates me. And none of it is true. It's all being generated by your brain, but you don't have the ability to know that. Nobody really does. And so, this is where people really need to work with a professional that, like in the beginning stages, especially. But then when you get to the point, the whole idea is to get you to the point where you can change the brain, and then you understand, oh, I do have control over this, and now learn what to do and build those habits, just like, you go running or you go exercise, you built that habit.
Yeah.
And you need to build a habit of doing brain exercises and balancing your brain, because it's not just going to stay there. That's why people might think, well, didn't he work with her and didn't he fix her? And the answer is yes, at one point we did, but that when you were around and you would come into the office and we worked with you, or you lived in the same house and I could
we've also discussed that, like, that your whole body of work has been developed while I was growing up. So like, this is something that like I started doing with you when I was more, I mean, we always did, like, you always worked on us and stuff, because obviously he had to figure out how to help kids, but yeah, it was more stuff that like we started when we were older, and I haven't lived at home in like God knows how many years since I went to college. So.
And that's the challenge. That's why, again, getting to someone earlier, getting to a kid earlier. And again, we can get the brain in a much more balanced state where it will mostly stay there. But then if you're using it, if you're a left brain dominant accountant, then during accounting season, you're just doing numbers constantly over and over and over.
Yeah, and you like throw yourself out of whack.
Yeah, you can put yourself into like an autistic state. I mean, I've seen it happen with colleagues of mine.
Yeah. I guess that's what I've done. Yeah. Because I'm also thinking, you said, oh, if you wake up and your automatic like first feeling, because it really is like I open my eyes and I'm like, did I murder somebody last night? And then it's like, and then it's like because I feel so horrible, then I look for why. So then I think back to every single word I ever said to anybody, and then I'm like, you idiot. And then like I'll find like one thing and it'll like play over and over and over in my head, and I'll just like. Lately I've been waking up at like 5:45 in the morning with that feeling, and then I just sit there till like 7:45, just like unraveling all of it until I'm like, okay.
And like you said, the fact that it's generated automatically in your brain, and then you're searching for the reason.
Right.
And your brain's going to eventually find a reason.
Oh, I find them.
Right. But it's not real.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to try to tell your brain that, right? But what you should be doing is, as soon as you wake up, you should be putting on the transcranial or the glasses, or you should be doing something.
I ordered the wrong battery.
But you should do that even.
I was like, thought my dad.
And there's the classic.
I ordered the wrong size battery to put in this.
Right.
So.
And you tried.
That's why they're not flashing.
And she didn't realize that till we were on the car ride over. When she was trying to put them in.
Responsible. And then then you put these on your head. I'm missing a sponge from this. I think it's in my bag.
I was going to say, there's one sponge missing.
Okay.
Actually, what you should tell is also that classic right brain story of, in the midst of this writing camp, your friend called you.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because that is hysterical.
Oh, my God.
It's also such a classic right brain story.
Yeah, my dad coming out here, honestly, this has been very like healing, because he is now meeting all of my friends that are very similar to me. So I'm like, yes. Every time they do something kind of stupid, I'm like, keep doing that. Because now
it's not just me.
It's not just me. But yes, when on the way, so the writers camp was out in like Arrington, which is like an hour away from Nashville. It was in this house. It was very fun and beautiful. But because have great organizational skills, I booked a show in the middle of it that I couldn't cancel. So I had to take an Uber all the way back to Nashville, play the show. And then a friend of mine was out and she didn't want to have to go all the way back out to her house. So she was like, can I sleep at your apartment? And I was like, well, I have to go back to my writer's camp very early tomorrow morning to get back in time. And she was like, that's great. I'll drive you. So she as well is a very, very right brain dominant person and a very, very talented person.
Very talented, very competent. What she does really, really well. So,
and it's in sort of a right brain world for sure.
Absolutely.
But yes, she was she was driving me out and she's missing 3 out of 4 of her hubcaps. And
I didn't hear that.
and she like whipped it onto the highway or whatever. I don't have a car here because I'm from New York, so my friends just drive me around, little passenger princess. So whatever, she whipped it onto the highway and there was a cop behind us and she was like, oh my God, this cop is gonna pull us over. I was like, no, and it's fine if he does, like what's the big deal? And then the lights go on. She goes, my plates have been expired for 2 years. And I was like, what? So then we like get pulled over and the cop comes out. He's like this older guy. He's like, did you know your plates have been expired for 2 years? And she was like, what? Like acting like she had no idea. And he was like, and it says you have no insurance. She was like, where, if I were to find my insurance, where would that be? And he was like, on your phone, like open whatever. So I like see her on her phone, like the Progressive app is like loading because she's like never opened it in like 4 years.
But she has it.
It's just like opening. She's like, oh, I guess it's updating for some reason. And he was like, okay, well, can you show me it? And then it was like, create new password, like whatever. So she had to like send it to her email. She's like, I actually, for some reason, have to make a new password. And he was like, oh my God, fine. Give me your license. Like, at least I'll run that. So she gives the license. We're like sitting in the car, like, shaking. I started eating gummy worms because I was so nervous and she started yelling at me. She was like, this is not the tone. And also her car is covered in clothes and like random like beer cans that we threw in the back of the car that I shoved into my bag so that it didn't look like we weren't drinking in that morning.
Did you shove the beer cans when the cop pulled up? Or?
Yeah, when the cop pulled up, I like found all the empty beer cans in her car and shoved them in my bag. Because I was like, you can't have empty beer cans everywhere. She wasn't drinking them when she was driving. It was just sometimes we just throw them in there. There's very lackadaisical rules about having an open container when you're a passenger in the car. In Tennessee. So anyway, I shoved those all in my bag and then he comes back and he was like, that's it. You're under arrest. And he was like actually screaming at us.
And what was the final straw?
He was like, your plates are expired for 2 years. You have absolutely no insurance and your license has been expired for your license has been suspended for an entire year. And she was like, what? And then he looked at me and he was like, and you, why isn't your seatbelt on the right way? And I was like, oh my God. And so like, honestly, she was like, so, sir, I'm on the road a lot. I tour all the time. And he was like, I don't care. Your lifestyle needs to slow down, Missy. And she was like, I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for telling me that. And like, honestly, I think because we were so frazzled and we were like kind of joking with him, but also freaking out because he was like, that's it. Get in the back of my car. Your friend's taking an Uber home. And she was like, no, please. Like, we were both like, sir, no. And then he like kind of started like giggling at us, which was like the right brain thing. At least we turned on the charm. I don't know where we pulled it out of.
Right.
But he was like, all right, fine. Do you have a license? And because I don't normally drive, she was like, she doesn't drive. And I was like, shh. And I like pulled out a license. She had no idea I even had a valid license.
You pulled the license.
Oh yeah, I had to go in my bag, but I had all the beer cans in there, so it was like clink, 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 clink.
You to go into your bag.
Yeah, and it was so loud. He was like, "What in the world?" And I like pulled out my license and gave it to him. She was like, "You have a license?" I was like, "Yes, I just don't have a car here." So yes, basically he came back and somehow. Well, he felt really bad. He came back and we were dripping sweat. And he was like, you guys could have left the air conditioner on when I was running her license. And she was like, the air conditioner is on. We just can't breathe because we're freaking out. And so he was like, oh my God. So he ended up like somehow changing the date for her because she was going to be on tour during that time. And then he was like directing traffic for us. And then I like ended up driving us out. He was like, fine. She can drive your car, but she needs to take you straight to jail after
Go right to jail.
And he was like, I'll let you take yourself to jail, because then you don't have to pay the fine. Okay. And we were like, oh my God, thank you, sir. That's so nice. So yeah, anyway,
There's a fine if they drive you to jail.
Well, yeah, because she would have been arrested and put in the back of the car, and then she would have had to get out on like bail or something. So he was like, I'll call the jail. You take yourself there, or like she'll take you there. But I couldn't take her to jail because I had to go to my writer's camp. So I drove myself to the writer's camp. And then when I got there, because she's like friends with a lot of people there, she was like, oh my God, should I come inside and like hang out for a little while? And I was like, no, dude, take yourself to jail. What in the world?
Right. They're gonna be sending out people out after you.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, she drove herself there.
Yes. And I think she somehow got out of having to go that day because it was like busy. So then she ended up like getting to go a different day. Who knows? She's a very charming girl. And see, that's why her and I, the first time my dad met her, she like lost her credit card and had like $1 of gas in her car.
Yes.
And she does very well. She just like couldn't find a way to get money to put it in her car.
Right.
And she was like, whatever, like I'll figure it out. But I think that's like kind of the difference between right and left brain people. And I feel like my left brain friends sometimes get frustrated when I have those behaviors. And then sometimes things just do end up working out. And they're like, how did this work out for you? Because literally you didn't have anything set up or whatever. I'm like, I don't know. You just gotta give it to God.
But you see, you gotta understand, why do you wake up out of nowhere with first of all, nothing's out of nowhere, right? You know me. I always go back to why. I mean, you were at this writer's camp, this huge right brain, intense with all these right brain people, and you hang out with all other right brain people.
Yeah, we're not helping we're not balancing each other out.
They're all
worse
worse than you, right?
Yeah. Yes, they are worse than me. Which thank you for saying that.
Yeah. So so you look at it like your brain is just out of balance all the time.
Yeah.
And it's not
cute.
But
it seems cute in moments like that, and then I wake up and I want to die. So
yeah, and listen, I have to tell you, I've had moments of that when I go back when I was younger, and I know your mom disagrees. I'm a right brain person, but I'm a right brain person.
We'll let you into the right brain club.
Yeah, but I remember there was a period of time when I was had those little things, like certain things I would put off, like getting my license renewed, just because I just was so busy and I had other more important things and couldn't do that. But, there's a certain point where you have to make yourself do that. But when your brain is fighting against you, it just, and you also have to realize that when you're in that state, even though all these emotions are coming up, there's a point where that right brain activation now shuts down your gift.
Yeah.
And you're in the point where now you want to be successful. You want to write. You want to sing. You want to perform. You want to have that next great hit. You all want all those things that you're tapping in. And that's what's cool about your life. And the right brain likes novelty. The right brain likes surprises. The right brain doesn't like to do routines over and over. So the fact is, you could get up on any given day and write, one of the greatest songs ever written, or two of them, like Dolly Parton did in one day, right? You could do that. You have that ability. You're in the area. You're in the, you're in the big leagues in Nashville. And that's very exciting. And that's what you want. And I know it's what you want more than anything else. But when you let your right brain get so out of control, you sabotage it. It sabotages you.
Yeah, it's like gets crippling for sure.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I have to spend hours every morning just like getting myself to a place where it's like, you're not a horrible person. You shouldn't just up and move your entire life and never see anyone again. Like you're like, just make yourself some coffee. But it takes me like 2 hours right now to get to that point.
So what you need to do is you need to start to build a habit or a routine in your early morning. A lot of people do that in the biohacking world. Everybody's like, I've done a lot of these podcasts with these biohackers, and they're always like, all right, let me ask you your morning routine. And I'm always like, well, I get up as late as I can, possible, and then I have coffee with my wife. And they're like, wait, you don't get up at like 5 a.m. and do like a routine and
stick
do
your face in a whole bowl of ice.
Right, an hour meditation. And I'm like, nope. And they're like, wow, how did you accomplish everything you've done? And I said, well, it's just because I stay up late.
Yeah, well, creatives are more like they stay up
Right,
late.
I stay up late at night. You go to bed at 9 o'clock and wake up at 5, right? I go to bed at 1, and from 10 to 1, I write books, So, it's the same thing. But I also, I'll say to people, well, I feel like I want to give other people a head start. Because otherwise it's not fair, right? So I got to give them a head start, because once I get going pretty hard.
Yeah, no, you're the hardest worker I've ever met. And so if that's it, whatever your routine is, it's just, there's no need to wake up at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's never been something that, I've run marathons, I train, I'll do it. And every night I exercise, every night when I come home. But that's my routine.
Between every commercial, he's like.
Right, but but you have to build a habit, and you got to find a time. But the thing is, because it happens first thing in the morning, you literally should, put these things on right away. Like before it even gets conscious for you. Before the feelings really
I'm telling
rise.
you, my eyes are not even open yet, and the feeling is already there.
But before you start that real, I know your brain has already started, but that search for what did I do wrong, or who did I wrong, or what did I say? You need to do that, and you need to realize that it's all in your brain. You need to shut it down. You need to not find the answer of why you should feel worse, which is only going to make you feel worse. You need to realize, you need to say, this is my brain. I need to shut it down, because it's not going to be good for you. Whenever you talk about genetic traits, like I tell parents, even, when we talked about autism, that in the family are these left brain dominant traits, and these kids are all geniuses. And that's a good thing until it's not. There's a point where a trait goes over what's called a cliff edge, like an evolutionary cliff edge, where the trait is strong, 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 and it's good, 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 and it gives you a great advantage. And then there's a point where it gives you this big disadvantage.
Yeah.
And that's dynamic, meaning it's not just like, oh, I'm born with this trait and I have this brain this way. It's like you can get your brain that way by using it so much or making it so powerful. So the thing that makes you, and you training and doing what you're doing, that's making you a better and better and better songwriter. Like, since you've been here, do you feel like your songwriting skills have gotten better?
Yeah.
Like how much better? Like, 100%, 200%, 1,000%?
I've been doing it now here, like every single week, multiple days a week for 4 years now. So yeah, I don't.
How much?
Whatever percentage that would be.
So you've gotten a lot better. What about your performance skills?
Yeah, for sure.
So that means that your right brain has got even stronger since you've been down here. And that means your left brain has to fight even more to try to keep up with it. But you're not doing anything for your left brain. Everything you do all day, every day, and all the friends that you hang out with, and driving in the car and putting beer cans in your, like, these are all the, you're like, I don't know if you ever, I Love Lucy was a show that was big when I grew up, with Lucy.
Eating the chocolates off the conveyor belt.
Yeah, Lucy and Ethel. That's you and your girlfriend were like Lucy and Ethel. You literally, that could be an episode in a show, right? You were looking at writing a show at one point. That would have been.
Well, it is funny because, like, I guess you're right. Like, I guess, like, I'll write all day and then I go out at night because that's what this town is. Like, half of your job is to, like, be out at shows and networking and also drinking because everyone has social anxiety. So everyone's drinking because everyone's a right brain person. But it's weird because then there's also settings, like, the other morning I woke up. And this is what made me think about doing this episode, because I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, I woke up and I had that whole unraveling in the morning, and I was like, maybe, like, I'll just, instead of making coffee in my apartment, I'll go downstairs and get coffee at, like, the coffee shop next door. And I got in my elevator, and for some reason, every person and their mom that lived in my building was in the elevator. And I'm like 5'10", and so I'm already, like, pretty tall, but most of the time I just feel like kind of like normal. Or no, I don't feel normal in my body. I don't know who I'm pretending to be. But this was like an extreme. Like I got in the elevator and I was like bumping into people and I was like, oh, sorry. Oh, and I didn't know where to stand. And then like someone went to like push a button and I went to push a button and I was like, sorry. And then like, like I felt like everyone was staring at me probably because they were, because I was just bumbling around the elevator. But I was like, do you not even know how to function in public? Like, and I had sunglasses on and a hat. Like I just wanted to be like this big and I felt this big. Just like I couldn't even feel normal, like just standing. I don't know. It was just too much.
One of the things that would be good is if there's some way that you could take experiences like that and then like immediately write it like a comedy routine. Because when you talk about you're really funny.
Thanks, Dad.
And you know, your mom always said that, like when Ellis and obviously everybody in the family, like when you would talk about you, and it's always about some drama or thing that happened to you. But when you tell it, it's a very funny story, right? And so when you're telling it, like, do you feel that anxiety now, or do you feel like that it's funny?
Well, I think it's funny because I think I'm so self-aware of the whole thing that's happening in the moment. And in the moment, I'm like, I want to die. And then I overthink everything afterwards. And then it's like I remember every single detail. So then I have to find it funny because then I think
but
back
then
and
when you
replay
find it funny, does it dampen the level of anxiety?
Yeah, I think once I like make fun of it, I'm like, oh, that
yeah.
was
So
just,
if
like,
you could
another
do
thing.
it where you were thinking about, okay, I'm going to write like a comedy show. Or I'm working with our podcast where each time we do a podcast, you're going to tell one of your funny stories.
Yeah.
And you don't have to necessarily do that, but you can just make it like every time something like that happens, you write it down and make it into a funny thing.
Yeah, I could do that. I definitely could do that.
And I think that would diffuse it in your mind, make it smaller, and make it useful.
While wearing my red light glasses and my brain driver, I'm going to
Yes, it all starts with you got to change your brain. But this is the thing I think that's so important and is that the brain is dynamic. It's incredibly dynamic. And the more powerful your brain is and the more naturally unbalanced it is, the more dynamic it is. It changes so rapidly and so fast. And it is influenced by the people that are around you. And it's influenced, but when you're getting these emotions and feelings out of nowhere, it's not psychological. You're not generating it. And it's not because you actually did anything. It's also not real. So what is it? It's a neurological imbalance that is making different networks in your brain fire off, even when they, for no reason, really. And really because they're so strong and the other side isn't strong enough to balance it out. And you've been, over the last 3.5, 4 years when you've been here, you've been doing this at an intensity level that think about it this way. Imagine you were an Olympic athlete and you said, okay, I'm going to go to the Olympic Training Center. And you're always an athlete. You always, worked out. You always exercise. You're always in good shape. But now you're going down, and all you're going to do all day, every day, is train for the Olympics for 4 years. And you're doing that every day, all day. The chance of you getting injured or having pain or being sore, but you're also getting great because you're training now at a level that you've never trained before. So you're achieving your greatest potential, but you're also putting so much wear and tear on your body, and your body's getting stronger, but at the same time, you're also more vulnerable to injuries or things like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, I was saying that I wish that I could just try a beta blocker just once, which I said to him in the car because I was like, I don't really know what they are, but sometimes I listen to Giggly Squad because it's a very funny podcast, and the girl Paige on it was saying that when they would do live shows, she would have like these panic attacks beforehand, but then like obviously could get on stage and be like, everything's great, but she was like freaking out. And I was like, I wish. And then she started saying that she takes beta blockers, which, I don't know about promoting drugs on on a podcast, but I don't even know if that's a drug. I'm not sure what it is. I was just
Not sure if it's a drug.
I don't even know what it is. So I'm not sure. All I know is that she was like, oh my God, I tried beta blockers before I went out on stage, and all of that anxiety and like self-loathing and all that stuff went away, and she was just able to perform. And I was like, oh my God, I'd love to feel that way.
Magic pill.
Yeah. So then obviously I
so-
brought it up to him, but
Right. So what does a beta blocker do? Again, I go back and look and say why. First of all, it is a drug.
okay. Well, thanks for clearing that up.
And in certain ways, they use them with kids with ADHD. So I'm familiar. It originally was approved as a blood pressure medication. So what it does is it blocks beta adrenergic receptor sites in your body and in your heart and in your bloodstream and in your brain. So what is that? Those are the receptors that respond to adrenaline, epinephrine, norepinephrine. And so when you're in a fight or flight state, so we have two parts of our nervous system we've talked about. Sympathetic, which is there essentially when you're in danger. So when you're in danger, your heart rate goes up and your pupils get big and your ears become more sensitive to sound, and your gut and your immune system and your digestive system gets shut down. And blood comes from out of your gut into your muscles so you can fight and run away. The parasympathetic is when you're in safety. And that's where your heart rate slows down, your blood pressure gets lower, your digestive system comes back online, your pupils get smaller, and you can relax and sleep, okay? And when we're first born, we're in this sympathetic dominant state. Our heart rate is really high, like 140 as a newborn infant. And so when we're first born, we're in this fight or flight state, and that's regulated in the lower brainstem. And so we're in sympathetically dominant. We're not in parasympathetic. The parasympathetic will develop over the course of the first year. And there's an area called the nucleus ambiguus that will make our heart rate slow down. So a baby's heart rate slows down. So as a younger child, they start to be able to sleep through the night, and they start to be able to digest solid food and all of those things. And we talked about how we actually start off life with a leaky gut. So the beta adrenergic receptors are associated with the sympathetic fight or flight nervous system. So it makes your body feel like it's always in danger. Danger is a right brain emotion.
Right.
So what's happening is your body is feeling these signals that say, I need to run or fight. And then your brain is registering, where's this danger signal coming from? And it's coming within your right brain, which is saying, hey, we got to get out of here. Something's bad's going to happen. And so now I become hypervigilant. What's wrong? What am I, what's bad? And so taking those medications blocks those receptors. So it slows the heart rate down. That's why it was originally a blood pressure. It lowers your blood pressure.
Okay.
And it puts you into a calm state, which then activates your parasympathetic nervous system and gives you these signals that, oh, now I'm safe. And now I can relax and I can calm down. And now your brain picks that up and it's like, oh, I'm safe now. So now your right brain stops firing as much and isn't generating that anxiety. So,
but you're saying that the point is it's more important to try to understand why those would help you rather than
it's more
lean on
important
them
to
helping you.
understand why is the sympathetic nervous system reacting like that when there is no danger around.
And actually fix that.
Right. So number one, if your brain is still immature, like if these primitive reflexes didn't go away and the brainstem is immature, like almost every patient I deal with that have these developmental issues, they've always been in this sympathetically dominant state. Their parasympathetic nervous system never really fully come online.
Okay.
And even though the right brain is more parasympathetic, the base of it is sympathetic. So if it's a childhood developmental issue, you're always in this sympathetically dominant state. And then, so you need to deal with that. You need to correct that. You need to make that brainstem mature. You need to get those nuclei in place. But if you have an imbalance on either side, you're going to be in a more sympathetic dominant state, which means you're going to have more adrenaline flowing through your body, which means you're going to be in a more inflamed state, which means your digestive system isn't going to work very well, which means you're not going to detoxify as well. So, all of that works together. And so that's why a beta blocker would work if it does work. And that's how I believe it's working on the mental aspect of it.
Okay. All right. Fine. I guess I'll just fix what's actually broken then instead of taking them.
Well, what would be interesting is if you did take it and it didn't make you feel that way, that's kind of a confirmation that what I'm saying is right.
Oh, okay. Okay, fine. We can test that out.
Well, maybe not.
Not that we need to find out which side of my brain is more dominant.
But there are also supplements that can help with that. There's also ways to modify your immune response so that you're not as in such an inflamed state. And there's ways to change your brain so that your brain, doesn't respond and feel like you're in constant danger.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
Right. Bottom line is you got to do the work. You got to be able to wake up. You got to be able to do it first thing in the morning. You need to change your brain. And then we need to get supplements in you that will also help balance out your immune response and your inflammation versus anti-inflammation, and then doing physical exercises and all of that. And then other things like taking these, what seem like traumatic moments and writing them down and making them funny and using them for something positive and realizing that. And even if you could say to yourself, as this is happening, what's funny about this?
No, not in the moment. I'm just like, God.
Imagine if you could, though. Imagine if you could be like, this is going to be really funny when I write this. Imagine if you could, during it, actually immediately see the humor of it and start looking at it like, oh, I can't wait to write about this and how I'm feeling right now. That would really be very healing for you.
We didn't even get to talk about dolphins.
We'll have to save it for the next
one.
one.
We'll have to save it for the next one. Yeah, guys. We have, well, he and I don't agree, but there's some stuff about, he knows the scientific side of dolphins' brains. I think they're magic and they have bigger brains than us, but whatever. It doesn't matter. We don't have to talk about that now. We didn't get to it because we were too busy talking about my mental disorder.
Yes.
Okay, but this will be helpful. And to anybody else that's been in this state, I started our website called therightbrainpodcast.com.
Great.
But you can find so I'm going to be putting these on our website, but they're already on your website, right? drrobertmelillo.com.
Yes. There is, we have a basic patient kit that we give to all of our patients. And it's, more of a right brain deficit type of kit, which is blue lights and all of those. And then there's the left brain deficit, which is a right brain dominant.
That's me.
And that would be, red, yellow, orange, those types of things. But yeah, so we have, a kit. So we're going to be making up something like a box that people can get, like your basic brain, changing kit.
Yeah.
And we'll go through, and with that will come instructions on how to use it and all of that. But so we're working on that. We're going to have that available because we do want to give you the tools of how to do it, but you have to use it.
Yeah.
Because some people, I don't know who, may have all of the equipment and probably multiple kinds of them, and may not use them.
What a fool. That's crazy. Whoever that is.
I don't know.
Okay, well, I guess this was an amazing episode, and until next time.
I love you. I hope you feel better.
Thanks, Dad. I love you too.